So then we are back with more understanding from the time of the Second Tabernacle services, where we find in the Aramaic English translation of the word. This translation comes from the original manuscripts of the prophets of the Israelic lineage. So then we can understand the time of the end, per Yeshayahu the prophet. We find in a layer of understanding regarding the spring feast, autumn feast, and returning of the cities of the Messiah laid waste for many centuries. So then, understandably, these times we are then transitioning ourselves back to what I was then during the time of the trade of the initiation started in with the first son of Ibrahim. And then these times obviously were very known during the time of the cities of the Messiah, starting with Yohanan, roughly 100 years after the ascension of the Messiah until 1009. And as such, then, the trade of the world has changed from what it used to be then manual work as far as economics, and then computerized trade, and then these are very new for some people. So some of the older folks, they were never acquainted truly with the advancement of computerized systems. So let's say, for instance, some of them may think it's simply a gadget with people then they play around with. If there was only a searchable system where you could, rather than going to the library and then flip around some magazines to get your knowledge, it would be fine. The problem is banking and investments of critical importance, they've become then computerized. So when so many people then think of themselves these gadgets, it became a deadly weapon where then economics and investments became combined in a system. As you understand, you receive your check from the government via a computerized system. And this computerized system has become then worldwide. And during this time, there is the direct trade system from China, where then you can do and you can make purchases, and then you can have investments and receiving of funding via a foreign system based from a downloading in the computer system. So then if you are never exposed to a computer, you might be oblivious of what's going on. However, if you then have some knowledge, you should be very concerned, because our government is not prepared for this download of the very near future. So then let's try to understand what this means, because it involves every citizen. Because as we understand, then taxes or filing taxes has become mostly computerized, and then most of the expenses of the government obviously computerized, and then the trade of the end works as if you would tune in to a radio and receiving information from abroad. When you understand the information from abroad, is the same as if you would understand the new system coming and then the computer reading it. It is very similar. But then the earnings of the country are dependent upon this system where our government is not prepared for. How does it work? Thus far, we find then our government spending a lot, but not earning at the same level. This has become a problem. Then IMF, or then the International Monetary Fund, they gave us a warning a couple of years ago, where they said 5 years doing this, then we would not be able to maintain our system. So then 24 months is gone. We have then 36 months ahead of us. Make sure we do then a taxation upgrading of the system, and then combining freighting with it. Because as direct trade becomes available via the computer, is as if you would have then a store around the corner where you know the owner of the store for many years. But then rather than taking cash from your pocket, the system is becoming without cash. It is simply a symbolic number in a computer with the same equivalency of having a paper money in your pocket. And this has become then so modern, so rampant, so modernized, that banking and investments are then involved with governments, where then people can do themselves. It's kind of scary, because at some point you become a banker, you become an investor, you become a purchaser. These at the same time, via a computer, considered a gadget. And this funding is overseas funding. It's not dependent upon the laws of our land, because there are not policies yet set up when this new system then comes and then takes over the entire investment system. It is truly scary. It is very scary. Because by the time computers were available, the Chinese, they knew they could use the system of investment regulated by the computer itself. So they used this principle with the purchasing power and investment at the same time. And then a couple of days ago or so, then they set up in orbit the equipment where they can get a beam, as would be similar of a radio station in the space, dedicated only for trade, where computers, they can read the signal and you can do trade and investment in the computer. And our government is not prepared for the amount of volume of purchases yet coming, and then taxation is outdated, and then the freighting, most importantly. When the system becomes available and downloads in the system, then you can read only yourself the system. The government can't read what you have because of the protection rights. As you have a linking bank with your system, then you can do your purchase, you can make purchases, you can place items for sale, you can do many modes with the system. And you can, most importantly, then invest and receive via the same system. But it is a form of foreign system, foreign monetary, yen for instance from China, where our country can't regulate it yet. And our country, in fact, is absolutely in the hands of the Chinese at the moment, because we have no regulation over this. So if you are familiar with the retail stores, you understand then. You have to have a link with a credit card or some sort of a banking with it, so you can make your purchase and you can pay. But when you invest at the same time, then you generate funding from a system not regulated by our own country. And they are not prepared for it. So it's truly scary out there what's coming. In the Pacific, they are very aware of this direct trade system. Some countries, for instance, some realms of Australia, New Zealand, for instance, they already have deals with China with direct trade. But our system is very outdated. And if we don't step up, if we don't do what we should be doing in upgrading our system and informing the people of this downloading very near future, then we are going to stay behind. So it's not only a gadget. If it was only a gadget to do regular work, or then some sort of a library research, reading a magazine in the computer or playing games, video games, this is what most people, they have the idea of computer. No, it's become far more important than this. You have the combination of New York Exchange and a combination also of purchasing and combination of investment. Under the same system with a desktop computer can be done at the same time. and our government has no regulation over it. So our system is extremely vulnerable thus far. So let's try and make sure we understand it, because there is an equipment in the space placed in orbit a couple of days ago or so, and it's already orbiting the Earth only for this purpose. And as we understand, the Chinese made a claim, oh, it's only for the Pacific area. No, it's not. It's worldwide. And we must be aware of any kind of a place in the jungle, for instance, where there is potential for mining. They can have a direct link with the space. This means with a simple generator and a receiving unit in the midst of the mine over there in the forest, they can start doing trade. It is very truly. So then let's make sure we understand these and take the proper measures to get our system upgraded for the next 36 months. So then we can be participants of the system and not being caught up and a lack of infrastructure of airports and ports because of the huge amount of volume. Because so many people are going to be doing this at the same time, and the generation of volume of these parcels tremendously high. So let's make sure we understand this principle.